recommend that you work with your husband, because I made him my manager, and then when I decided to divorce him, he had to be fired. In other words, I made him divorced and unemployed all.
Y'all, what if everything you thought you knew about Wendy Williams was a lie, and the real story was happening right in front of millions of people, hidden inside a simple cup of tea? Because behind the cameras, behind the laughs, behind that iconic purple chair, there are now explosive allegations that Wendy wasn't just going through it, she may have been controlled, manipulated, kept just stable enough to perform, but not stable enough to break free. And now, the woman who was once on the sidelines is threatening to burn it all down. Sharina Hudson. The same woman tied to Kevin Hunter's downfall is now reportedly ready to expose what really happened behind the scenes, and if even a fraction of this is true, this isn't just celebrity gossip anymore. This is something much darker. We're talking about claims that Wendy's daily tea may have been tampered with, that her strange on-air moments, her slurred words, even that terrifying live TV collapse might not have been accidents at all. And here's where it gets even more disturbing. Kevin Hunter, the man who was supposed to protect her, is now being accused of orchestrating a system that kept Wendy under control, while money flowed, careers stayed intact, and the truth stayed buried. But now the money is gone. The silence is breaking. And Sharina? She might be the one holding the match. Because if she talks, everything burns.
She was one of these, less than smart women who moved to the big city with bright lights, and she wanted to be a model. And so you know how the girls with the sparkler champagne bottles at the club, they get people to spend more money, they dress scantily clad and things like that. And I, being the girl about town, popular on the radio at that time, I was hosting a lot of these parties, and I was a staple. I had the Wendy Williams Comedy Night at the Caroline's Comedy Club and things like that. And so, yeah, get over there with the sparkling girls and, hi girls, go look, see that guy right there? He's got money. See, because I knew the scene and attracted the scene, and all their job was to go over there and offer a sparkler champagne for more money than you normally spend for champagne, and guys would actually pay it. Kevin's problem is that Kevin ended up getting with this girl. She made herself very available to him. She was very disrespectful to me. Do you know he had the nerve to tell me that she admires?
What if the biggest betrayal in daytime television didn't happen behind closed doors, but played out in front of millions, hidden in plain sight? For years, viewers watched Wendy Williams sit in that chair, sip her tea, and deliver the hottest gossip in the industry. She was sharp, fearless, unpredictable. But then, something changed. The pauses got longer. The words started slipping. The energy felt off. And that infamous moment when she stumbled live on air left fans confused, concerned, and searching for answers. At the time, the narrative was simple: stress, health issues, personal struggles. But now, a far more disturbing story is beginning to take shape, and it's being fueled by whispers from someone who is closer to the situation than most people realized. Sharina Hudson. The same woman once linked to Kevin Hunter, Wendy's ex-husband and former manager, is now rumored to be reaching her breaking point. Sources claim she's frustrated, cut off financially, and ready to expose what she allegedly knows about what was really happening behind the scenes of Wendy's show. And if these claims are true, this isn't just messy drama. This is calculated. Because according to growing speculation, Wendy wasn't just dealing with personal issues. She may have been kept in a controlled state, functional enough to perform, but not fully aware of what was happening around her. Let that sink in. The very show that built her legacy may have also been the place where everything started to unravel.
They said you're cognitively impaired and you're incapacitated.
Do I seem that way?
No.
You've been calling me 5 times a day for the last 2 weeks. No, you don't seem that way.
How dare, excuse me, who I naturally am is who I naturally am. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yes.
And my niece knows all about that. I'm sorry. I apologize.
To be clear, you can't leave. Like, they won't allow you to leave or have visitors, family members or not. So you can't even leave and take a walk.
Insiders have pointed to one detail that now feels impossible to ignore: Wendy's daily tea. A simple, harmless routine that millions of viewers saw every single episode. But what if that tea wasn't so harmless? What if it was part of something much bigger? There are allegations, unproven, but persistent, that something may have been added to her drink. Not enough to completely shut her down, but just enough to alter her behavior. Enough to keep her slightly off balance. Enough to make her seem unstable, while still keeping the show running. And suddenly, moments that once seemed random start to look different. The confusion, the delayed reactions, the vacant stares. Even Wendy herself appeared to question it at times, making cryptic comments on air that, in hindsight, feel less like jokes and more like warnings. If you're going to put something in my tea, at least stir it. At the time, people laughed it off. Now, it doesn't feel so funny. Because if someone was controlling what she consumed, then who benefits from that? All roads seem to lead back to one person: Kevin Hunter. The man who wasn't just her husband, but also her manager. The one with direct influence over her career, her schedule, and the business decisions surrounding her show. A man who, according to reports, had everything to lose if Wendy stepped away from television and reclaimed control of her life. And that's where the timeline starts to get even more suspicious. Right when the support is gone, the image is gone. Kevin, once positioned at the top of Wendy's empire, is now reportedly drowning in debt, lawsuits piling up, assets being sold, loans stacking higher by the day. The same man who once controlled millions, now allegedly struggling to maintain even the basics. And when the money disappears, so does the loyalty. Sharina, who once stood beside him, is now rumored to be stepping away, distancing herself from a situation that no longer benefits her. Some reports even suggest she's returned to the very family she once cut off, forced to rebuild from the ground up. But here's where it takes a dangerous turn. Because people don't walk away from situations like this quietly, especially not when they feel used, abandoned, and left with nothing. They talk. And if Sharina talks, she doesn't just bring opinions. She brings proximity. She brings access. She brings details. Details that could connect the dots between what the public saw and what may have actually been happening behind closed doors. And suddenly, this isn't just about a messy breakup anymore. It's about leverage. Because if she really does have information, real, verifiable, damaging information, then Kevin isn't just dealing with financial pressure. He's dealing with exposure. The kind that doesn't stay contained to headlines. The kind that pulls everything into the light. And at the same time, Wendy is still fighting her own battle. A battle that, in many ways, feels just as controlled as the situation she's trying to escape. Placed under guardianship. Cut off from full control of her finances. Forced to navigate a system where even her own voice is questioned. And despite passing cognitive tests, despite showing signs that she is aware, capable, and ready, she remains in a position where freedom isn't fully hers. Think about that. A woman who built an empire on speaking her truth, now fighting for the right to speak at all. And maybe that's the most chilling part of this entire story. Because if Wendy really was being controlled back then, and she's still being controlled now, then the question isn't just what happened. It's who allowed it to continue. And more importantly, who's going to stop it? And now, everything is colliding. Because when you step back and look at the full picture, the rumors, the behavior, the financial collapse, the silence, it stops looking like isolated incidents and starts to feel like a pattern. A pattern of control, a pattern of dependence, a pattern of someone slowly losing power, while everyone around them gained from it. Wendy Williams built her brand on exposing other people's secrets. But what happens when she becomes the story? Because right now, she's not sitting in that chair anymore. She's not holding that cup. She's not controlling the narrative the way she once did. Instead, she's on the outside, looking in at a life that no longer feels like hers. And the most unsettling part? She knows it. In interviews, in brief moments where her voice cuts through the noise, Wendy has made one thing clear: she wants her life back. Not pieces of it. Not controlled access. Full control. Over her money. Over her decisions. Over her freedom. But every time it seems like she's getting closer, something pulls her back. Another evaluation, another delay, another layer of authority standing between her and independence. And when you connect that to everything else being said, it raises a terrifying question. Has she ever really been in control? Because if the allegations about her past are even partially true, if there were people making decisions about her state, her environment, even what she consumed, then what we're witnessing now might not be a new chapter. It might be a continuation. A different system, the same outcome. And while Wendy is fighting to reclaim her voice, the people tied to her past are unraveling in real time. Kevin Hunter, once the gatekeeper, the decision maker, the man who stood at the center of Wendy's empire, now reduced to court filings, debt claims, and desperate attempts to access money that may no longer be within reach. Reports suggest he's still pushing legal angles, still trying to reopen agreements, still searching for a way back into a financial stream that has already dried up. But this time, the power dynamic is different. Because now, there's someone else in the equation. Someone who was once aligned with him and may now be turning against him. Sharina Hudson. At first, she was seen as the outsider who disrupted everything, the affair that shattered a marriage, the presence that shifted Wendy's world. But now, she may hold something far more dangerous than a relationship. Information. The kind of information that doesn't just hurt reputations, it destroys them. Because if Sharina really was around during those critical years, if she witnessed the dynamics, the decisions, the behind-the-scenes reality, then she doesn't need to guess. She knows. And right now, all signs point to someone who feels abandoned. Cut off financially, disconnected from the lifestyle she once had, left to deal with the fallout of a situation she didn't fully control, but was deeply involved in. That kind of position doesn't create silence. It creates pressure. And pressure creates leaks. Because let's be honest, if you were in her position, watching everything collapse, knowing what you know, how long would you stay quiet? Especially if the person you stood beside can no longer provide, protect, or keep you comfortable. That's when loyalty shifts. That's when survival kicks in. And that's when the truth becomes currency. So now, Kevin isn't just dealing with financial ruin. He's dealing with the possibility that someone close to him could start talking. Really talking. Not vague hints, not anonymous whispers, details, specifics. Timelines. And if that happens, everything changes. Because suddenly, those old clips of Wendy acting off aren't just awkward moments. They become evidence. Those jokes about her tea? They become clues. That fall on live television? It becomes a flashpoint. Everything that was once dismissed, re-examined under a completely different lens. And the industry? It won't be able to ignore it. Because this isn't just about one person anymore. It's about a system. A system that may have allowed something questionable to continue, as long as the ratings stayed high and the money kept flowing. A system where red flags were either missed or ignored. And if that system is exposed, there's no controlling where the damage stops. But here's where it gets even more intense. Because while all of this is building, while tensions rise, while secrets threaten to surface, Wendy is still in the middle of her own fight. A fight that feels quieter, but no less serious. She's not leaking stories. She's not threatening anyone. She's doing something far more powerful. She's pushing back. Against the guardianship, against the restrictions, against the narrative that she's incapable. And every time she speaks, every time she challenges the situation, it chips away at the version of her that the world has been told to believe. Which means if the truth about her past starts coming out at the same time she's reclaiming her present, that's not just a comeback. That's an explosion. Because imagine this. Wendy regains control of her life, while the people who once controlled her are exposed. That's not just closure. That's reversal. And in stories like this, reversals don't come quietly. They come with headlines, with fallout, with consequences. So now, everything hangs in the balance. Will Sharina actually speak? Will Kevin find a way to contain the situation? Will Wendy finally break free? Or is there still something or someone keeping the full truth just out of reach? Because one thing is clear. This story isn't over. Not even close. And if even one piece of this puzzle falls into place, what comes next won't just shock people. It will change everything. And here's the part they don't want you thinking about. If Sharina Hudson really decides to speak, this entire situation flips overnight. Not slowly. Not quietly. Instantly. Because this isn't just some outsider throwing accusations. This is someone who was inside the circle, close enough to see what the public never saw, close enough to connect the dots that were carefully kept apart. And Kevin Hunter knows that. Because a broke man with secrets is a dangerous man, but a broke man whose secrets are about to be exposed? That's a ticking time bomb. Every strange clip, every awkward pause, every moment Wendy didn't seem like herself suddenly becomes something else. Not entertainment. Not speculation. Evidence. And once the internet locks onto a narrative like that, there's no shutting it down. But the real twist? Wendy is still here. Still aware, still speaking, still fighting. And if she manages to fully break free at the exact moment these allegations explode, then this doesn't end as a scandal. It turns into a reckoning. Because then the question won't be what happened to Wendy. It'll be who did this to her, and who allowed it? So now all eyes are on Sharina. Will she actually drop the receipts? Or will this stay buried like everything else? Either way, something is coming. And when it hits, it won't just shake one person. It will shake everything.